Hey troops, welcome back to the channel. My name's Ryan. I'm a former Royal Marines Commando from the United Kingdom. Today we're going to be talking about whether or not Russia is gearing up for a potential major offensive in Ukraine and what's Ukraine's response going to be. Stick around to the end of the video, guys. Thanks for being here. I really do appreciate the support. If you want to support me further, please consider joining the Patreon. The link is in the description. Ad-free, uncensored content. Let's get into this. My voice is a bit croaky today. Anyway, so this is coming out of The Guardian. I've just been reading a few sentences of this. Ukraine army chief warns Moscow preparing for Kiev attack as Putin seeks new economic ties as it's happening. So this is alleged that this is going to be happening next year, troops, or early next year anyway. Now, the head of Ukraine's armed forces believes Russia will have a renewed attempt at capturing the capital, Kiev, after its previous attack was repelled earlier this year. So we've seen that it was unsuccessful, troops. They didn't manage to take Kiev. That's obviously a major battle that they want to fight and win, and Ukraine needs to put a lot of emphasis on that not actually happening, guys. All right, they need to not let that happen for obvious reasons. It's the capital city, but there's just so many different reasons, politically speaking, why that would be almost considered a massive failing in Ukraine, and in general it would probably be the beginning of the end of the war in favor of Russia if they did take Ukraine. So let's hope that doesn't happen, troops. And now in an interview, she said that was trying to prepare for Russian forces to have another go at taking the city, possibly in February or March. If they want to do that, if they want to be able to take the city, they're 100% going to have to reorganize and reallocate their troops. They're going to have to, and by reorganize, I mean they're going to actually have to get guys on the ground. Russia's struggling with recruitment and retention and all of that kind of stuff. Retention being soldiers getting killed and fleeing the battle space. Recruitment in the sense that a lot of Russians don't actually want to fight this war. It has zero purpose for them in terms of their moral standing. They don't want to be there. So they're going to have to recruit a couple of 100,000 at the very least to be able to have any chances of even becoming even remotely successful in Kiev, which I don't think they're going to be. Now, Zelensky's comment were echoed by Ukraine's defense minister, who told The Guardian that Ukraine's forces were preparing for Russia to launch a major offensive in the new year. This has to have came out of, intelligence. It's not going to come out of nowhere. Now, electricity blackouts due to Russian missile and drone attacks on Ukraine's power infrastructure are crippling its economy, including key sectors such as mining and manufacturing. The report in the Washington Post said Ukraine needs another $2 billion a month on top of the $55 billion already projected for next year to meet basic expenses. Absolutely insane, troops. So this isn't just having an effect on the country in a moral sense. You know, the people are seeing and witnessing their families and loved ones be killed on the front lines. It's gone beyond that. It's actually affecting the country's ability to function in global society. So yeah, 52 billion, I think it mentioned there, 55 plus another 2 billion, 57 billion a month just to stay on top of things. That's an incredible amount of money that country is getting, guys. And I don't know how happy I am with that, to be honest with you. I don't know where to stand on that one. I'll have to think about that, actually, guys, because my comments might have to go in the Patreon for that. An 18 billion EU finance package for Ukraine looks likely to go ahead after Poland dropped its opposition. Diplomats from Warsaw had objected to a minimum corporate tax level, which diplomats had told Reuters had blindsided those negotiating the deals. They and Lithuania has also argued for tighter restrictions on their neighbours, Russia. It goes without saying, economic sanctions and stuff are hindering Russia's progress slightly. But it's not completely hindering their ability to fight this war. In fact, they're talking about reorganizing and, launching a full-scale attack on Kiev next year. That's alleged, by the way. So it can't be crippling them completely or entirely. There's obviously more things that the world can do in terms of tightening the strings on Russia's economy. Now, Ukraine's President Zelensky said the next 6 months of conflict with Russia will be decisive. In an online address to the European Council on Thursday, he said the next 6 months will be decisive in many respects in the confrontation Russia started with their aggression. next 6 months, I think every month is decisive in this war. We can't just say the next 6 months is going to be decisive. You know, it's obvious that every single month is decisive in how this goes. And yeah, I think what he's saying is, if we don't get the funding that we need, then obviously that's going to be problemed for us. And the next 6 months is where it stretches out. So yeah. Next 6 months will be decisive in many respects in the confrontation Russia started. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty obvious one, isn't it, really? Now, Putin has said Russia will try to overcome the financial impact of Western sanctions by selling gas to its eastern neighbours. In a televised speech, he said Russia would develop its economic ties with countries in Asia, Africa and Latin America. Wow, okay, so he's hitting a different demographic there. Trying to develop its economic ties with countries in Asia, Africa and Latin America. Now, so if I'm thinking about this logically, you know, he's trying to say, well, actually the West, the notionary West of Europe and America, let's forget about you guys. We don't need you anymore. Economically speaking, we're going to hit some of the third world countries and some of the less prosperous countries to be able to sell our gas to and make money from. And you know, these countries probably will be happy of that, you know, because, like I say, they'll be able to get a good deal more than likely. They're in a position where they can get a good deal from Russia. So it's interesting that he's targeting that demographic. Now, Kherson City is without electricity currently, according to the head of the regional military administration for the region. Said that because of heavy shelling, which could kill 2 people on Thursday, the city does not have any working electricity at the moment. Okay, so let's have a look at Kherson anyway. We haven't studied this for a while. So this is liberated since the 10th of the 11th, an area of nearly 5,000 square kilometers. Let's have a look at this. So Kherson was being hit heavily bombarded with artillery fire, courtesy of the Russians. So you've got quite a big area adjacent to the Dnipro River, and for obvious reasons you've got the enemy this side in, you know, various different areas blasting themselves across the river by means of artillery, affecting day-to-day living for the people who are occupying this area. Now, it makes, you know, complete sense why Russia would try to do that, but in terms of them gaining Kherson anytime soon, unless they planned a major counteroffensive within that region, I don't see that happening. So they're effectively just disrupting people's lives, and this is the point of where I believe it becomes. When we look at war crimes and stuff like that, troops, okay, this is when we start bordering on war crimes, when individual normal people are getting their lives, regular lives, dislodged because of Russia's antics, okay? Plenty of normal houses here, businesses, regular people trying to get through their day, okay? Only liberated not so long ago, and it's still getting bombarded with artillery and whatnot. Really, really terrible, troops. Now, Defense of Ukraine. This is a good Twitter feed, actually. This is the reality for our troops, this foxhole lullaby, as it was said. Now, I'm not going to say that I've been in this situation, in the exact type of situation, but I know what it feels like to be in a foxhole like this guy there. He's obviously got his helmet on for protection. He's in that foxhole, 1, to stay hidden, and 2, for a little bit of cover. The only thing that I would say is this weapon system needs to be on his person at all time, as we teach in the British military, because, you know, that arm's length away might be too far away if the enemy is to break over. But I feel for this guy. He's obviously in a shithole that isn't his home, and he's away from home, and he's fighting for his country. You know, so I do admire that. I admire that a great deal. What else is the defense of Ukraine saying? If necessary, the US Army will turn a gloomy day into a bright one. The UA Army, apologies, not the the US, I thought it was US. 7 hours ago, residents of occupied Crimea report that the famous beaches on the east coast of the peninsula have been marred by trenches and concrete fortifications. The Ukraine Army will not let occupiers spoil the next vacation season. Well, that's a bit, yeah, I think the next vacation season is definitely out of the question. I don't think these areas are going to be occupied by seasonal holiday goers anytime soon, unfortunately. Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. So what's going on here? He's standing alongside with the chairman of the US Joint Chiefs of Staff. He's saying hope for further effective support in order to implement the plans of the General Staff. 14th of December yesterday, we exchanged assessments of the strategic situation with this geezer here, General Christopher Cavalier. We discussed our needs for weapons and equipment. So there's a real need still, despite 50 odd billion being donated every single month to Ukraine. There's a real sense of urgency and need for more money. I don't know if that's going to be the key, though. I don't know if more money is going to solve this. How long do we go just giving money? And obviously, we want to see the end of this, but are we going to see the end of this? If this is going to keep on going and keep on going and keep on going, then obviously money isn't the answer. We need something else. We need a different type of intervention. And whether or not that intervention looks like more countries getting involved via NATO, I don't know. But I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. How long do we keep on donating monstrous amounts of money for? And not seeing an end in sight? That's the real question that I want to. That's the real question that I want to highlight, guys. Okay, but Ukraine is allegedly preparing a new major military operation. So amidst all that was being said in terms of Russia preparing for their major counteroffensive in the early months of next year, Ukraine says they're also preparing for a major counteroffensive. So Ukraine's armed forces are preparing a new major military operation, but it's not visible yet, Chief Commander said in an interview with The Economist. With the limited resources Ukraine has, it's very difficult to conduct large-scale military operations, but this one will not require a lot of ammunition, according to this Ukraine's, who's this, the chief commander, I don't want to pronounce his name. He didn't provide further details, so the chief commander added that the number of shells the Ukrainian army has and the allies could provide was very limited. Zelensky cited Anthony Radakin, the head of the UK armed forces, who had told him that Ukraine used too much ammunition. Europe would have nothing to live on. Zelensky also said that to be able to liberate all territories occupied by Russia since the beginning of the full-scale invasion February 24th, Ukraine will need 300 tanks, about 700 infantry fighting vehicles and 500 howitzers. In the same interview, he said that Russia is preparing for a new attack on Ukraine. We've just been talking about this as soon as January, but more likely in the spring. Seeking to push back, Ukrainian forces are potentially making a second attempt to take Kyiv. In the past months, Ukraine has successfully conducted two major military operations on liberating Kharkiv in the east and territories on the west bank of the Dnipro River in Kherson Oblast and the south, including the regional capital. So loads of information coming out there, troops, in terms of what we think is going on. Ukraine is saying that Russia is preparing for a major offensive in January, February time. Ukraine is also saying that they are prepared to do the same, okay, but under certain conditions. And those certain conditions to make that a success, despite them saying they won't need that many individual bits of infrastructure for the little mission that they say they're going to do, longevity-wise, we are going to be needing an extra 300 tanks and 700 infantry fighting vehicles and 500 howitzers to get the job done. So irrelevant of that small-scale attack that they're not going to need too much infrastructure for, in the grand scheme of things, the rest of the military operations that are going to be account for is they're going to need a lot of infrastructure. 300 tanks is a lot of money. 700 infantry fighting vehicles, a lot of money. 500 howitzers, a lot of money, a lot of infrastructure there, guys. So what do you make of that? Do you think February will see a new counteroffensive via Ukraine? Or do you see Russia doing an attack on Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, at the same time? Time will tell, guys. I'll see you in the next one.